Hey y'all, it's Lucy from paperglitterglue.com. That's my website. And today I'm showing you one of my favorite projects. It's called Raven's Crest Bookstore. And it's easy to make. And I just think it's like the perfect Halloween decor. So it's made with either cardstock or cardboard. It's got this cool stone overlay, and I included some PDF photos to look like a bookstore bookshelves, and it's just really fun. Okay, but here's the best part. It's an actual bookstore. There are little books in the back. So I made these little books, and I kind of had fun coming up with titles with them. I've got a little Erlenmeyer flask that is from Tim Holtz. I think it was last year, Ideology. He has the best Halloween stuff. And the same thing with this little pewter cauldron and a little candlestick, and I put a skull on top. You don't have to do anything like that, but anyway, I did that. I glued some things in, but I kind of like having the books so you can take them out and they actually open, and it's just really fun to make them. I think this one is called The Ghost Who Loved to Dance. This is Frank's journal, and Arachnology, study of spiders. But I also made one, the study of bats. I don't know how to say it, Chiroptology. And then this one's got a great title, Fungi for Fun and Profit. And then I just did a purple one with nothing. But anyway, I'll show you how to make the little books too. I hope you join me making the Raven's Crest Bookstore. And we've got kind of a special presentation on how you can enhance it even more tomorrow with Jen Swift. Okay, alrighty. I'll see you when we're doing the making. Briefly, I'm going to give you an overview of the parts that go to the Raven's Crest Bookstore. These pieces are going to be the inside part of the bookstore, kind of the wallpaper. This is the main piece, the main structure of the bookstore. This is the stone overlay, which takes a while to cut. I'll talk about that when we make the when I show you how I set it up in Cricut Design Space, but I actually timed these and they took an hour and 40 minutes to cut out. I like the effect, but I just want to warn you that it takes a while. You may have other options, such as using a stone scrapbook paper on top and just cut out the shape rather than having to do all the stone, the actual cutouts. This is the overlay with the bookstore name, and I use these for structure. I just leave these two for structure because it makes it sturdy, so if you ever like drop your little thing on its head, the raven won't get bent. These are already folded, but this is the bookshelves. On the first bookshelves I only made one layer, but with 2 layers of cardstock, of a strong cardstock, it makes a really strong bookshelf. So I've got 2 of those. This is the underlayer for the stone. Doesn't it look good? Now for the storefront, I've got 2 options. If you're kind of tired of all the birds, you can just use a plain storefront, or you have, some other element you want to add up here. You can use the plain one or use the ravens. There's 1 door, and you need 7 windows, and these windows cut out really nicely. I had no problem with that. 7 windows. I'm using Barely Art glue, and then I printed up, I made a PDF sheet of bookshelves if you want to use those, and for the storefront. So I found some angled bookshelves to give you a little depth perception, and then these are some book titles. I'm making some little books for the Raven's Crest bookstore. So these go on the back of the thing. So I'm working on just little books, just kind of making it fun, like Fungi for Fun and Profit, Frank's journal. But anyway, so you have that as an option too. If you have other book titles you want to do, then, obviously go with those. Now I'm going to show you how it works in Cricut Design Space, how I set it up in Cricut Design Space. You may have a different cutting machine, but I'm using a Cricut Maker. You can make this with any of the Cricuts except the Joy. This piece and probably these pieces are just too large to cut with the Cricut Joy. You can use the Cricut Joy Extra and use not a scoring tool, the foil tool to make these score lines. And so you can make it with a Cricut Joy Extra. All right, now to Cricut Design Space. So let me show you how the Raven's Crest Bookstore works in Cricut Design Space. I'll explain all the pieces to you. I'm going to New Project in the upper right-hand corner. This is a canvas, really the area that you work off of. I'm going to Upload in the lower left-hand corner. Upload. I'm going to Upload Image, Browse. This is the SVG. It looks like the file that I want. I'm going to click Continue down here in the lower right-hand corner. And this is the image details part, Raven's Crest Bookstore SVG. That is correct. Upload in the lower right-hand corner. And here is my design. I want to see all the pieces and kind of manipulate the ones that I have to. So I'm going to reduce the size enough so I can see my design on the screen. I really have to reduce it to about 25%. So I'm not really reducing the design, just the size on the screen. And the first thing we do when we have multiple pieces in a design is ungroup. So I'm going to click ungroup and you'll see how it ungroups everything. And now I'm just going to tell you briefly what each piece is. These two are the bookshelves that are on the back side of the bookstore. This is the main structure of the bookstore. This is a kind of a spare background piece. I like it because it gives extra strength to the front of the bookstore. It actually gives extra strength to the little ravens. I actually have a couple of ways to do that, but that's what that piece is. You don't absolutely need it. I usually use it, but you don't have to. I do try to cut out these pieces in particular in stronger cardstock, a heavier weight cardstock, 100 or 110-pound cardstock. I think that just makes the bookshelves themselves sturdier and the bookstore sturdier. You can use cardboard. I did not for these demonstrations. These are the side pieces, and you just glue the stone surface on top. I'll talk about that in a second. And then this piece with the cutout allows you to put a sign, Raven's Crest Bookstore. There's a PDF. There is a PDF that's got the Raven's Crest Bookstore sign, and it's got all these windows that you can put behind your windows if you want, and also some bookshelves that kind of give dimension to the front. So you don't have to use that. If you've got some colorful papers or some funny little Halloween papers that you'd like to use, you can use those. But I did make up a PDF with windows for you and with signs for the Raven's Crest Bookstore. Okay, so basically, I always group it by color. I know that Cricut does that too, but I like to do things like I cut out an extra door or two in case it messes up. For detailed pieces, I cut out an extra. Oh, and when you have little tiny details like this, it works best to use a lighter weight cardstock, like 65-pound cardstock or 80-pound cardstock. A lighter cardstock works better, and I did cut these with cardstock for intricate cuts, and that works much better. These pieces make the stone surface on the bookstore, and I timed it, and it actually took an hour and 40 minutes to cut this out. I just want to warn you that it takes a while. Also, I duplicated it and then attached it so it would cut them out twice, and I didn't have to wait until the middle of the cut and like check on it, see. So because I knew on my machine, my Cricut Maker, that this had to cut twice on the cardstock for intricate settings, but it makes a really nice surface. Now, if you want to, instead of doing this, you can just use, for these pieces, you can just use a kind of a stone surface, either a scrapbook paper that's like a stone surface, or 12 by 12 cardstock shop has some really beautiful cardstock that's kind of got a pebbly surface to it, sort of looks stone-like. So that would save you time where you didn't have to cut out these stone pieces. But I think they are a very nice detail. And this is my 1 by 1 inch square for scale. And once you know that the design has uploaded at the correct scale, then you can just delete it. So I selected it. I go over to this little trash can and delete it. I am actually going to hide everything so I can just show you score lines. So I'm going to group these and then click this little eye icon and hide them. All right, these are really the structural pieces of the bookstore. So there is no way that I can automatically designate score lines within Cricut Design Space. As an outside designer, I don't have that option. So what I do is I group the score lines with the piece they belong to. And you can see here's this little side arrow. Let's click the down arrow. And the only way I can really designate score lines is by drawing them in red. Even though Cricut doesn't show it here, I drew those particular lines in red. Let's see. So when you go over to the operations menu, you'll see this color box that's red, and that's a clue that I intended those lines to be score lines. So let's click the down arrow on the operations menu and scroll down to score. And now it's hard to see on this dark gray, but now these lines are dashed lines. And the next most important thing is to attach them so that Cricut knows that these score lines belong to this piece, and do the same thing on the bookshelves. So let's do the little down arrow, choose this set of lines here. We're over in the layers panel on the right. Choose these little lines. They are red. That's a clue. I intended them to be score lines. Click score, choose the whole piece and attach, and then do the same thing with the other bookshelf. So I only did 2 bookshelves because I wanted to, have room to put in some fun stuff. So there are only 2 bookshelves pieces on the back. So we score it, select the entire piece, attach. And so those are the only ones that need to be designated with score lines. All the other pieces you could just cut out. But again, remember, these pieces work best in a heavier cardstock or cardboard. So you have a sturdy little bookstore. I just wanted to show you this piece, explain what this piece is. It's the base. So if you want to make a strong base for your bookstore, which I highly recommend, cut out a 6 by 2.5 piece of cardboard. And actually, I use corrugated cardboard that I cut by hand, or actually use my paper trimmer, and I glued a couple layers together. I think it's important to have a base for this, because the front of the bookstore is kind of top heavy and it'll tip over. So I do a base that's slightly larger than the design itself, just to give, it's like a footing for a building. It just gives it more support. But I just wanted to explain what this purple piece is. That's just the size of the base that I cut out. You can cut it out with your Cricut and just use some regular cardboard that cuts easily with your Cricut, but I really liked it a little bit sturdier, so I used some pretty thick corrugated cardboard, hot glued them together, and I'll show you that when we get to the construction part. Okay, that's setting up your design in Cricut Design Space, and now we move to construction. This is the basic box for the little Raven's Crest bookstore. Now you have a choice here. You can go ahead, if you want wallpaper on the inside of your house, you can go ahead and glue it in place. And I just cut it out by just cutting out a piece with the same size. And instead of it doing score lines, I just cut it. So these are exactly the same size. So you can do it now if you like, or you can wait until it's constructed and then just kind of trim them to fit where your shelves go. The disadvantage is you're going to see the supports for the shelves. I don't think it matters that much because you're going to put like something on your shelves and it's going to cover up this backing. So you decide if you want to glue it on now or you want to glue it on after you've already put your shelves in place and the structure's done. The other thing is, let me show you, when you fold, this is a score line, so usually I fold towards me and then away. But the process of folding takes up a little bit of space. So if you try to put this in there It's just a tiny bit too large. So I would just trim it. I would just do a tiniest little trim so it sits down in there perfectly. And the same thing with each side piece. Just a little tiny bit of trim. The amount I'm cutting off is very narrow, but it's enough that it fits there with the fold. So I just want to tell you about that. And I think for this example, I'm going to go ahead and glue the wallpaper in place first. Let me trim this piece. All right. Oh, and this paper is so pretty on the other side too. This is from Bo Bunny. I got it from 12 by 12 cardstock company. I needed some wallpaper. Other wallpaper options are from Tim Holtz. I mean, you can find lots of scrapbook paper, but if you want like something that looks really, really good, this Bo Bunny paper looks wonderful. But also Tim Holtz papers. His stuff like worn wallpaper and some background papers that are just beautiful. Oh, and I forgot one thing. I should have trimmed the end just a little bit. Let's trim the ends of these too. Okay, there we've got that. Now we need to fold down these little tabs. Apply some glue here to these tabs. And you really want to line up these edges so that, especially on the bottom edge, because you want your building to stand flat. And when stuff won't hold, I just get a little tiny bit of painter's tape, and there's our main structure. Now, let's let that dry, and let's go make the background piece, or rather the front. Let's do the front. So this is the color I want for the stone. I used a lighter color for the mortar, which shows through. See, I want the birds on the front, so I'm going to use the birds. This is the front part that has the cutout, so we can have the name of the bookstore. And I've extended the background piece of paper, so you don't have to worry about the other colors showing through. Let's glue down the name. Just going to apply glue around the edge where the bookstore name goes and a little bit up here. And I'm going to lightly put it down so I can kind of slide it if I need to. If I need to make it straight. There, that looks good. And now I'm going to glue a background piece just for sturdiness. Again, that's to make sure your ravens don't, break when we when we tip our bookstore over, which is, kind of inevitable. A little bit of glue to the ravens. And now they're already much sturdier. Okay, let's glue the windows to the back of this piece. There are 7, I think I made 7 or 8 different sets of windows. I don't want 2 windows that are just alike to be by each other. And also, you want to make sure your bookshelves are, with the books at the bottom of the shelf. So I made a black border around them. So let's just do a little bead of glue so we can put this down. And again, put it down lightly so you can adjust if you need to. And then you can apply a little pressure. I'm going to do this one in the middle. I'm going to line up the books the way I like them. I think I'm going to glue this to my frame first. So this is the frame. So I'm going to apply glue to the frame. And I'm going to let that dry because I want to add the stone first. And I cut this out in case you have a different background, something different you want to go here. And I am going to use this kind of neutral piece, again, to make it stronger. So this one's a little bit, not really tricky, but I just use a little bit of Barely Art glue. Now I'm going to center this around the windows. And now we can add the windows. I just love the dimension. Okay, next, let's glue our title. Now let's glue the name of the bookstore in place. And now we can glue this one in place. Here's the door. The little squares go at the bottom. Got a door in place. Next, let's glue it to the background piece. Just because I used a thinner, I had a real pretty gray that I liked, and that's what I used for the back of the stone, but it wasn't as thick as I like, so that's one reason I'm doing the background. This is 1 10-pound cardstock. That's 3. I need 1 more. I'm just going to just glue the window cutouts to the back of these side pieces, and I'm going to try to use 2 different sets of bookshelves. Let's look and see how it's centered. Make sure my books are straight. Okay, do the same with the other side. I had to check and make sure I was doing it right. The shorter side goes to the bottom. So in other words, there's more distance up here, so I didn't want to do them upside down. They're little tiny books. It's not like you'd notice, but you might notice, so there we go. And now we can add our stone overlay. There we go. We'll do the same on this one. Next, let's see what we want to do next. I think I'm going to go ahead and glue these facade pieces on because I think it will be easier to get them to adhere before I add the bookshelves. First, no, we should probably do the sides because this overlay sticks out a little bit, and if I want to add pressure, these 2 will get bent. So I'm going to do the sides first. And most important is to line up the bottom. Next side, Alley Cat is visiting as usual. Forgot to add the windows. That's easy. Let's go ahead and do those. Let's get the next 2. And now let's glue the front facade on. There, bookstore is almost done. Isn't it cute? Okay, the only thing we need now are the shelves And basically you just fold it in half so you've got tabs on both sides, up and down, and it makes the shelves much sturdier. Let me show you on my first prototype. I just did one set of shelves with a set of tabs underneath, and they're very flexible, so they're not going to hold my little books quite as well. So that's why I doubled them up. And I'm just kind of guesstimating. And also, by being the way they are, they're sturdier. They are easier to put in straight. You see, if a more flexible piece gets wonky easier. So this makes the bookshelves better. I think two, really, it works out to three. 1, 2, 3 is enough. You may want more shelves than that. You may have some little tiny objects that you want to put in place, but for me and for the little books and the little kind of trinkets I have planned, this works fine. Oh, and if your shelves tilt, if they're going to tilt at all, you want them to tilt upward because you don't want your stuff falling off. I'm going to resort to painter's tape once again. Just to help a little bit. It's cute. I'm not folding it over because I don't want it to pull up my stone surface. So, oh, and I used a very lightweight cardstock for the stone surface. I use 65 pound. Now, if you want more coverage for your wallpaper, then I would just take the pieces and just kind of roughly measure and cut them and slide them in. So now you could put your books in. I found all these little trinkets, so like a little bell jar. I have a candlestick. These are from Tim Holtz. A little pewter thing. I'm going to put some candy in there and kind of mix it in with my books. I was a science major in college. This is an Erlenmeyer flask. I'm going to put some colored water in it and put it. And I'm going to actually kind of glue the top on so I don't, spill water all over my creation. But anyway, that's the plan for the Raven's Crest Bookstore. I'll show you the completely finished and decorated object or bookstore in a minute. Now that we've got the basic bookstore built, we can continue to do other things like it needs a base. And let me see if I can show you why. This one actually stands up okay. This one does not. It's so front heavy that it tips over, so it needs a base. And I like to make mine, you can use regular cardboard, but I actually like really sturdy corrugated cardboard. This is from a litter box, but it's very sturdy. So, and I didn't make it big just because I didn't want it to take a lot of space. In other words, I didn't leave a lot of room for landscaping. So what I'm going to do is paint this with Mod Podge and then cover it up with some crumpled newspaper. This is my Mod Podge. This is my old beat up brush. Actually, one of my very favorite brushes that I use for stuff like this. Just paint it on. I wrinkle the paper just because it conforms easier, but also when I paint it, it makes really nice wrinkles and it distresses nicely. So if you're wondering why I wrinkle the paper, I don't want it to look neat. I don't want it to look like a wrapped present. And we can tear off excess paper. See, I like that kind of wrinkled surface. And now I'm going to let that dry. And then I will paint it some kind of color. I'll show it to you when I get everything all done. And this is the finished Raven's Crest Bookstore. This is the base that I glued on. And the back pieces, I hot glued the Erlenmeyer flask on. I glued some of the books in place, but some of the ones like the study of bats I did not. A few I left. And then my cauldron contents keep falling out, but that's because I keep tipping it over. But anyway, I wanted to show you the finished bookstore so you can see how the base worked, and it really makes things sturdy so the bookstore doesn't fall over nearly as easily. But if it does, the front in particular is protected by the front of the base. You can see that I distressed it, but I think it's a really fun detail to add to the bookstore. All right. And tomorrow, my friend Jen Swift is going to show us some techniques you can use with this bookstore that are flat out incredible. All righty. I'll see you tomorrow.